The Dice Tower, episode 532. Pumpkins, pigs, but most importantly, pies.
The Dice Tower is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your support. And by Cool Stuff Inc. Cool stuff in stock at coolstuffinc.com.
Welcome to The Dice Tower, a podcast about board games and card games, and especially the people who play them. In today's show, Mandy and I talk a bit more about our Essen goodies, we take a look at some shelf staples, and we'll wind up with some app talk. I'm Suzanne Sheldon.
And I'm Mandy Hutchinson.
And welcome back to the podcast, everybody.
Yahoo! I know, I feel like we've been away.
It's been a little weird. Like, we've had live shows and the Essen shows, and so everything's just a little off rhythm, and I'm really glad that we're sneaking back into our more regular groove this episode.
I agree. I'm kind of, everything was great, but I'm kind of missing some of the little segments that we do.
Yeah. And you just got back from a convention yourself, right?
Yes. So PAX Unplugged. I know by the time this airs, it might be a couple weeks later, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, it was a good time. It was different. I found this con to be a lot of newcomers. So newcomers to gaming, the first time that people were attending a con. This was the type of con that a lot of people, this was their first one ever. So
that's kind of cool.
So I thought that was really cool. I got to chat with a lot of people. I was helping out at Renegade, showing off a lot of pie tan, which we're going to talk about later. And everyone asked if you were jealous, by the way, that I was getting to talk about pies all day.
Super jealous.
I know. But it was great. It was a good time. I really enjoyed myself. There was some karaoke that happened.
Oh my. Please tell me somebody took some video of that.
I think there's video somewhere. Let's never speak of it again or show it or anything like that.
Oh, I got some bribe money. I got to start spreading around. I got to see this footage.
All I have to say, my white wedding rendition was fantastic.
Oh, dang. Man, I miss out on all the fun. No, I'm really interested to hear more reports out of PAX Unplugged because, it was the first year. And I think early numbers is saying it's between 25 and 30,000 attendees. I mean, that's a big show.
It's pretty good. That's very big. And I actually think it will probably increase as time goes on. And I believe from what I've been hearing that they'll have it on a different weekend to BGG Con, which was also happening.
On social media, it was interesting to see the banter of people who are at BGG and the banter of people who are at PAX, and then the banter of people like me that were just sitting at home reading other people's banter. So I don't think they're going to try to overlap them again in future years, but we'll see what happens. I mean, they're going to do what they're going to do.
Exactly. So we'll see what happens next year. But yeah, people will make that call. But speaking of sitting at home, well, it's not a horrible thing because you're getting all ready for the Dice Tower cruise. I'm so excited.
Heck yeah. So for people listening to this episode on the day it releases, Mandy and I and all of the Dice Tower gang will be on the Dice Tower cruise this upcoming weekend, December 2nd. I'm incredibly excited for a variety of reasons. It's such a privilege. I feel so lucky to be able to do something this cool. There's going to be 150 gamers, and there's going to be a games library, and we're going to be on a boat with a buffet. And I thought it sounds like it's going to be so much fun. I hope I don't get seasick, though.
No, I have Gravel. Wait. I think I said this and nobody knew what Gravel was in Essen. So,
what's Gravel?
Well, it'll prevent you from getting nauseous. I feel like there's an American version to this, but I only know Gravel.
Oh, you Canadians. That sounds like something you'd pave a roadway with. Gravel.
No, Gravel. It tastes like ginger.
Gravel. Oh, I like ginger. Okay.
Yeah,
all right. Well, that's good to know.
But I'm looking forward to it. I've never been on a cruise, and someone has been kind enough, actually a few people have been kind enough to offer to bring Too Many Bones.
Oh, onto the cruise? That big old heavy game?
The cruise. So, I love it. And I think that's awesome because I really want you to try it. But, that's so heavy for your luggage. So I'm hoping it makes it in the library and we'll figure it out.
So if you're listening to this and you're joining us on the cruise this weekend, I'm really looking forward to getting to play games with you and eat at the buffet with you. Did I mention the buffet? I don't know. There's a buffet. I'm just very excited about this. Yeah. And we will report back because I have a long list of games that I'm looking forward to getting to the table while on a boat.
Oh, you and me both. You and me both.
But really, enough of this chit chat. I want to get to game talk because I know we're going to get some pie talk in.
Oh, you know it. Pie Town, Spies, Pies, and Apple Pies. And this is designed by Daniel Fremgen. Artist is Charlie Bink and Jeanne Torres. Published by Renegade Games. And it costs about 38 Canadian, 45 US. So for anyone who may have seen me at PAX, I was showing this game to quite a few people. So
how many times do you think you demoed it?
Oh boy, a lot.
A lot, yeah.
A lot of pies were made, eaten, sold, all of the above.
Love it.
So Pie Town is a worker dice placement game, and you have a bit of hidden information. So in this game, a lot of people had compared it to Alchemist. So anybody who played Alchemist were like, ooh, it's kind of like Alchemist with that deduction portion of the game. And when I say that is you have to create a secret recipe, and by baking it, it's great because you end up getting more victory points when you sell them, but other people could potentially make your secret recipe, garnering them points when they sell it. So, you don't want that. But there are actions that you can take to change your recipe so that people can continue to make it. So speaking of that, in the game, you have these fantastic dice, which are your workers, but they're like these big dice you want to roll, and well, you can't. They're just your workers. So I know it's a little disappointing, but they're very nice. So there are actions in the game that can increase or decrease the value of your worker. So definitely some of the actions you want to take, like the orchard, picking some of your fruits to make your pies, those will increase your worker. And obviously you want to do that in order to make more pies and get more points. You also have baking action, which is to bake the pies, selling the pies in the market. You can also, even taking a first player action can increase a worker, and you can also hire so you can get more workers in the game. So in the game, there was one action, the spy action. I didn't use it very much, but a lot of people, when I was showing them the game, they really, really enjoyed that. So you can actually, if having a higher worker in certain parts of the board, put your die on top of another worker and see ingredients from another player. Now, it depends on the difference of the numbers. So if it's a difference of 1, you get to see one of their secret ingredients. And I'm telling you, it's a game changer because some of them, you see all their ingredients, and it would force the player to take that action to change their ingredients. So when you hear the title of this game, you kind of think, oh, okay, it's a really simple, basic, 20-minute game. No, it's like 60-minute game, even longer, depending on who you're playing with. And you do have to strategize and think a little bit. So usually I'm not big on deduction type games, but I really liked it. Now, could be because I liked the theme, pies. So I was like, okay, I was all over it. But I really enjoyed it. And most people, I think, that I taught it to really enjoyed it as well. So overall, I really liked it, and it surprised me because I saw the theme and I thought it was going to be relatively light, and I would not say that it is a super light game. Now, I did find a lot of different strategies being taken. I'm the type of player. Cool. Yeah, no, it's good. Like, I'm the type of player that would go into the orchard and get lots of the fruits, the apples and the pumpkins and whatnot. And I would make sure that my storage was upgraded so I can hold a lot of fruit so I can bake pies for later. You also had people who took the approach they wanted to hire more. So they wanted to hire lots of people right away, but then their workers were very low, right? Because I think it's like a -2 off of a worker when you hire, and then they come in at a 1 level. So it's not great for getting fruit because you're only getting 1 fruit with that worker. So I noticed that people would definitely take specific routes, and both would work.
That's really good to hear. I've only gotten to play 1 time, so I kind of want to withhold, to be comments compared to your probably, I don't know, 18 dozen plays at PAX or demo
I know it well now.
I can imagine. You probably dream of pies, which, sounds awesome to me. The thing that really appealed to me, though, in my first play was just when you sell the pies and you're placing your tokens on that show board. And when you can take the action to sell either the entire row, the front row, or any given column.
Right.
That was really fun to kind of try to plan and manipulate up there, which I thought was really cool, too. So yeah, I look forward to trying more of it. I personally really do enjoy deduction games, but usually, quote unquote, pure deduction games. So like a game like Sleuth, I flippin' love Sleuth, but it's so flat out, practically themeless deduction. And Alchemist, which granted is much heavier than Pie Town, Alchemist was just a step too far for me. Like there was
Right.
just one too many mechanisms in the mix for me to really, really enjoy it. Although I thought the deduction piece was really, really cool. Whereas in Pie Town, I kind of was so intrigued with all the other stuff going on. I kept on almost forgetting about the deduction piece. So,
Right.
Of course, I also lost. So I
may
think
have
the
something
next
to
time
do
I
with
play,
it.
I better pay more attention to that.
I just didn't want to debunk. Debunking was like a thing for me that I was nervous to do in Alchemist. I was like, well, and then I realized I should have done it because I was right. So it just made me nervous. It brought me back to like, those chemistry days. So
Sure. I was so confused. I was like, wait a minute. Oh my gosh, I totally played Pie Town wrong because I forgot debunking. But then I realized you're actually talking about
sorry.
Alchemist.
I went
My
back,
bad.
back to the Alchemist.
It's like, oh crap, I forgot an entire mechanism in the game when I played it. No,
It's been a week of random comments, so I just thought I'd throw my 2 cents in.
not a problem. But it's really cool. Just thematically, what a great theme for a
Yeah.
game. My bias towards the best dessert ever, pie, which of course, not only a dessert, because pie is an anytime food.
Of course.
It's nice to have games that have kind of alternative themes as opposed to settling and trading in the Mediterranean. I mean, trading strawberries and pumpkins is highly entertaining to me. So I like that.
It's great. I do find when teaching this game, the secret, the kind of deduction, secret element, the secret recipe, it's one that I would teach kind of in the second round. Like you have to pick it and everything, but the more explanation, at first people, I don't always get it right away. And then when they start playing, they're like, okay, I see the purpose and the need for it. So at first it's a little awkward and people don't understand, but then as they get into it, I think it's a bit more appealing. If you don't like deduction, I still think you would enjoy it because it's not I don't think it's a massive element. Yes, you have your secret recipe, but I don't think it's enough to turn you off, if that makes sense.
No, and that was it. Like I played an entire game where I knew about it and I was I just wasn't focusing on it and I still had fun playing the game. So that resonates with me. That kind of makes sense.
No. And people did ask for you. They're like, Suzanne, has she played this? Why is she not talking about Pie Town? I'm like, I am holding off because I know you want to hear what Suzanne has to say. So we're going to have to revisit this once you've played it a few more times.
Yeah, once I get a few more plays, and absolutely. That sounds like a deal. Everybody's going to be like, oh my gosh, I'm so sick of hearing about pie and pie. Too bad.
Well, you listen to this podcast, so we're going to be hearing a lot about pie. Yeah. Sorry.
Well, next up, what's a good segue? I was so bad with segues. Speaking of pumpkins, dun, 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 dun. Terrible. I got to play Montana, which is a game that both of us picked up at Essen.
Yes.
This is a new Rudiger Dorn game, and I'm a big fan of Rudiger Dorn, who, if the name isn't familiar, this is also the designer of a game called Istanbul and Karuba, which both happen to be favorites of mine. So I'm definitely a fan of Rudiger's. And Montana features art by Clemens Franz, that beautiful classic kind of pastoral art that he does so well in some of these Euros. And it was published in Europe by White Goblin Games, but Big Kid Games is bringing it to like the US, UK, Australia, and New Zealand. And I don't know when this episode, like timing wise, I know that they ran a Kickstarter. I don't know if it's still live by the time this episode airs, but they were running a Kickstarter and like it has all these upgraded bits and bobs in it. And I'm kind of a little bit drooly over the upgraded bits that I did not get. So,
Yes, exactly.
But Montana it's worker placement with a little bit of tile laying because you're trying to place these settlement hexes on a board. But it's really a racing game because the way you win is everybody starts with the same number of settlement hexes, and the first player to place all of their hexes out ends the game. And, you get even turns, but really it's likely whoever gets their hexes out first wins.
Okay.
And you have workers that don't belong to you. They are aligned with the different actions that you can take. So there's an area where you can get coal or copper or wheat. And there are workers that align color-wise to that. So coal worker will only be able to get you coal. And the way you get these workers is a spinner. There is a spinner, like old school spinner, and different wedges have a different combination of workers, including some wild spots. And so you get these workers and you collect workers on your board, and you can, hold a certain number. And then when you're ready, you take these actions on the board to get all of these resources. And that's really all there is to it, is match workers to the resource action and collect those resources. Mm-hmm. And what happens is that the board, all of this, it's a modular hex board. All the different individual hexes have resources on them. And so all you have to do to play a settlement there is, pay the resources and drop your settlement.
Okay.
It's really, really straightforward that way. But the modularity is nice because it mixes up the board a little bit. So, which does impact it, the way that it plays out. Because you can also get like a little bonus if you build your settlements out in a straight line. And you're just basically putting in workers. It's use them or lose them. So once you use them, they're gone and you have to earn them back. It's use your workers, get your resources, and lay your settlements. There's one extra interesting spot on the shared board where it's the city, and it actually has a little bit of an auction mechanism. And you can get some of the really good resources or harder to get resources there, which makes it appealing.
Right.
But you go back and forth and you pay in pumpkins. So, during the game, we're all looking at each other's boards trying to figure out, okay, do they have enough pumpkins to stop me or outbid me for this action, etc. So there's a lot of pumpkin attention in this game.
Interesting.
Yeah. Huh. But, ultimately, Montana was just really solid, engaging worker placement game that I think is elevated by some of the components that it has. The player boards are awesome. They're big. They're beautifully illustrated, and it has a spot for everything. The pumpkins have a spot. The coins have a spot. The workers have a spot. And it's all very clear. The actions are well defined on it. I love useful player boards, and Montana has a great one. And, it played super quickly. It was engaging. We had a really good time with it. So Montana is definitely worth a look if you kind of like that idea of the worker placement and that tile placement.
So I did hear, I haven't played it yet, but I did hear from people, they found that it was a little abrupt.
Oh, that's interesting.
It was super fast. And that it just was abruptly finished, and people felt a little disappointed. So this is just the feedback that I've been hearing, that people were really, really looking forward to it, but they found that gameplay was it was almost too fast, ended abruptly, and then it was okay, it's done. So I don't know if that's how you felt. I'm not getting that from you, but
yeah, I can definitely see where people would come up with that. It is a race. You can see how many tiles people have out and how many they have left. You can keep an eye on their player boards for what resources they have, which you are definitely doing. And later in the game, it does get a little more strategic as you're eyeballing what you think they're going to go for. There was a little bit of attempt at blocking during the game, things like that. But the game, it plays quickly. It does play quickly. It plays under 60 minutes. And I can definitely see with all the moving pieces that you have and that you might feel like you didn't have time to maybe really get a strategy going.
Right.
I personally didn't feel that way. It does scale differently for different player counts as well. So I'd be curious to know, you get more or less of those settlements that you have to play out. So that does change the pacing of it too. But I don't want to dismiss what you've heard because I could kind of see it, but I personally didn't feel that way.
Okay, so this is definitely one I'll have to try because I'm hearing, from you didn't feel like it was that abrupt finish or too quick. And then I've been hearing from other people the opposite, right? That they found it too fast. So now I'm curious to see where I land in all of this. But I do like the fact that everything's laid out on the board. That really appeals to me. So, worker placement, that's right up my alley. I feel like it's going to be is it Oracle of Delphi, where it was like that racing game and a lot of people just didn't. I don't know. Some people just couldn't get into it. So I just don't know if it was that type of game they didn't like or they just didn't like that particular game. And I feel like if this is kind of running in the same line. I'm not saying it's the same type of game, but maybe that feeling that people are having about it.
I actually think that that's a great analogy. That in Oracle Delphi, where you're quote unquote racing,
right,
and you're trying to complete those goals, and then it's done.
Right.
It's not a bad analogy. I mean, obviously a much lighter game,
of course,
but not a bad analogy.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's one to try. So that's
Montana.
Perfect. I'll definitely have to try to get it to the table soon. But now that we've left Montana, is Montana a ranch? I'm going to go with that. We are going to go to the palace of Mad King Ludwig. there's a bad segue for you.
We're upgrading. We're definitely upgrading.
We're getting there. And the designer is Ted Alsbach. Artist is Jason Bowles and Stephanie Gustafsson. Publisher is Bezier Games. And it costs about 55 Canadian, 43 US. So for those of you who are familiar with the Castle, Mad King Ludwig, I have not actually played it. So please, no gasping. I know I've already had it for my friends. So there's always that comparison. But this, I believe, is like the sequel to Castle's Mad King Ludwig. So in the palace of Mad King Ludwig, you're trying to build rooms in a single, like a really large palace. Once the rooms are completed, you want to add moat tiles, which is going to form the outside. So when the ends of these moats connect, the palace is finished, and the player who has contributed most to the palace wins. Now, there's a little bit more to it than that, and that's based on the variety of room tiles that are used. You have downstairs, you have utility room, you have food rooms, and these room tiles are on like a main board, and I don't know what you would call that, but basically they're in an order where you can pay for them if you want some of the rooms that are kind of further
like
up on
market.
the board. A market. Yeah, I guess that would be it. And the currency in this game is swans. So different colored swans in the game. So I thought that was very interesting. And, or you can just get them for free. So I'm super cheap, so I always take the free ones, whether I need them or not. I don't care. I'll just make it work. But that's an option. Each of the players, you also have a blueprint board. And this is important because in these blueprint boards, you have bonuses that you could potentially get on the outside of your board. And you'll have to remind me of the name of these, but they have the ones where you can get the end of game points, and then they have the tiles, depending how you place them, you can get the like constant bonus throughout the game.
Right, and you're leveling up the different room types as you go, and you get like this little scale for each type. I honestly, I'm so sorry, I can't remember either.
It's the name is escaping me right now, but it's on the edges of your board, and depending on how you place these room tiles, you can get the bonuses either end of the game, like an additional 10 points, or you can get bonuses like a discount off of rooms throughout the game. So just depending on how you place the tiles will depend on the type of discount that you will or type of ability, that you will activate. When you're placing rooms in the palace, you also have these little tokens. I will never forget these because I had to punch all of these out at Essen.
Yeah.
I have to tell you, I want to cry a little bit because we were rushing and I'm like, this is taking a long time. It's very pretty in the end, but it wasn't at the moment that I had to punch them out. So each player has specific kind of shape tokens. Like I thought mine looked like a cucumber, but I think it's a feather. And I have a weird imagination. Stuff like that.
No, it looks like a pickle. I know what you're talking about. Totally. It's a feather. You're right.
It's a feather?
It's a feather.
I kept calling it a pickle. So anyway, or a cucumber. But anytime you make a room, you place it on the lighter side. And then when you've completed the room, so all sides of the room are completed, then you're going to flip that over and that shows that room is completed. When you're connecting rooms, they have swans. And if the swans are matching, then you get that you and the player with the room that maybe was beside yours will get that swan. Because, it's currency in the game. You want that. And at the end of the game, they have a bit of set collection, I believe, with the swans. If you have certain colors, you'll get more points.
Yep.
And so things like that are important. When the game ends is when two ends of the moat connect orthagally or diagonally, or the moat stack tile is depleted, or the face down room tiles are completely gone. So you've got a few ways to end the game. I find it didn't take a long time to play through.
Yeah.
I haven't played Castles, so I can't compare this. No, seriously, everyone asked me, like, what do you think the difference? When I first saw Castles, I thought it was so gray and boring. The colors did not excite me. Yes, I know my hair is silver, but I don't want silver gray games. I need color. Maybe that's why Palaces kind of drew me in. Mm-hmm. I played it with my friends. They were lukewarm on Palaces.
Okay.
They really liked Castles. I guess they liked the gameplay. If it was a bit more puzzly, like I said, I haven't played it. For me, Palaces was fun. It wasn't, I liked it. I enjoyed it when we played. I didn't think it was overly exciting, but I enjoyed it. Does that make sense?
Sure.
So, I had fun. And to be fair, I was playing it with you and Nicole and Steph and, some really fun people. It's a game that I know my friends were not 100% into, but again, they were comparing it to the previous one. If you look at them, they're separate games. The kind of baseline is similar with, the rooms and creating the palace and all of that. I didn't find it overly exciting.
Interesting. Well, I think that this is a good example of a game that could easily suffer from comparison. And comparison to a sister game. It's not even like a comparison to a competitive game, really, because they're both Bezier games. I have played Castles. In fact, Castles of Mad King Ludwig is one of my top 50 games of all time. Ooh. That's how much I enjoy it. There are a couple of things I really like about it. One, I love the different shape rooms. I don't know, childish enough to appreciate different shapes.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I really like that. And really, Castles of Mad King Ludwig is all about buying the tiles and managing this market of tiles, which Palaces does not have at all.
Right.
Which is fine, because it's a different game. But people look at Castles, and one of the common complaints there is that you don't get enough pieces to really build out your personal castle. But managing that market is really the heart of the game, and I love that part of Castles.
Yes.
Now in Palaces,
that's what my friend said. Sorry to interrupt you. That's exactly what they said. The market and managing it. They said that was the part that excited them about Castles.
Exactly. And I think that's pretty common. So with Palaces, one of the big differences between Castles and Palaces is Palaces, you're building a common castle. You're all putting your tiles into the same big thing that grows and evolves. I really like that it has all the rooms are thematic, there are different types of rooms that are very specific. And they're all square. Honestly, for me, I really enjoy Palaces. I made a very concerted effort to evaluate it as a different game than Castles and try really hard not to compare them too strongly against each other when I was playing it.
Right.
And I like Palaces. I think my biggest complaint about Palaces is that it's a bit fiddly.
After punching it out, I could tell you, absolutely.
Yeah, and I remember watching you punching it out.
Painfully.
Yeah, that was because those little personal player bits are very, very small, and like you said, you're flipping them, as you're completing rooms and stuff like that. So there's a little bit of maintenance there. Personally, I still enjoy the game. It doesn't replace Castles for me, but yeah, it's interesting to hear your experience in it.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I like it. It wasn't like a love, oh my goodness, but I would definitely, I would play it again. Now, my game group, I don't know if they will play it again, but I know I can play it with you if I decide I need to try it.
There you go. Well, and I think really it'll be interesting to see when you do get Castles to the table, how you feel about them differently. I understand what you're saying about the color palette in it. I think when you look at the tiles more closely, you see a lot of little details come out, which is kind of fun. Like some of the tables on the tiles have other Bezier game boxes on them. It's real tiny. Cute. It's real cute. Like little Easter eggs.
Thematically, I get it. It makes sense. Yes, I am one of those people where art is important, but the theme, I'm assuming it lends well to the theme with the colors. So, it makes sense. So I'm sure once I played it, I'd get over it. Yeah. Life goes on. So that is the Palace of Mad King Ludwig.
Next up for me, I wanted to talk about Harvest Dice. This is a roll and write game designed by Danny Devine, and it's published by Gray Fox Games. And Danny is actually also a artist, and so the art is by Danny and by Tyler Miot, which is kind of cool.
Fantastic.
And this is real inexpensive. It was like €15 at Essen. It's not an expensive game. And it actually includes 2 different score pads, which is kind of cool. One's a little bit easier than the other. And that's just a nice detail that they threw in the box. But Harvest Dice is a roll and write game with dice drafting. So you get this little sheet, and it has a grid on it, a rectangular grid with the dice values on top of the columns, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and a little area with a bunch of circles below. And what that really is that is your field to plant crops in. And the little circles down below is your pig pen, where you get to throw crops, I don't know, rotten vegetables or thematically, whatever, to feed your little piggy friend. Basically, you roll a handful of dice, and there's red, orange, and green. And they thematically represent tomatoes, carrots, and lettuce. So the 3 types of veggies you plant. You're going to roll those dice, and then it's a dice drafting game. So you pull the die you want, and if it's red, that means you're going to be filling in a tomato. If it's orange, a carrot, etc. And you put it in the column of the value of the die. So if I pulled a 3 orange, I would be drawing a carrot anywhere in that 3 column. The first time you draw a veggie, you can put it anywhere you want on the board. But after that, the veggies have to connect to themselves. So once you draw a carrot, all the other carrots kind of have to touch it. So that makes, your choices about what dice are valid for you get a little tighter as the game goes on. And if you cannot or choose not to use a die, you draft it and you can mark off those circles to feed them to the pig. So, and you just mark off the number of pips, number of circles. The cool thing is that when you fill up a row with a piggy, you get a +1, -1 ability, a one-time use. So you kind of are building up these little pluses and minuses as you go, which gives you some dice manipulation, which is really great.
Right.
So you're filling up your crop fields with different vegetable drawings, which of course is part of the charm of this game, is that you're not just writing numbers down like many roll and writes do, which is, hey, no judgment. I love that. You get to draw, you can draw little shapes or you can draw actual vegetables. And it's kind of funny how people get into drawing either like cartoon-like veggies or realistic veggies and giving them personality. And it adds a little extra spark to the game.
It's fun.
Totally. And the last die that is not drafted, well, that gets marked off in the veggie scoring zone. And that's what ultimately will determine what your crops are worth, is the number of circles in the tomato zone will determine how much value your tomatoes have. Really, for such a light, quick, easy to play, easy to teach game that's really enjoyable and adorable, there's a little bit of tooth there. There's some gameplay, and that dice drafting becomes really tense as the game goes on and really meaningful. So for a quick, light roll and write game, I think Harvest Dice is delightful and really one that's worth paying attention to. The dice drafting, the veggie drawing, it's all great.
So I actually played this one with Dan King, I think Steph from Renegade. I think Sarah also played from Renegade as well. And we played it at PAX and I really liked it. It was really cute. And you were absolutely right with the drawing the vegetables. It was a thing. Everyone's, analyzing their artistic skills. Oh, my carrot doesn't look like a carrot. I think is it the lettuce or something? I'm like, it looks like a square with lines on it.
Yep.
It was like everyone's critiquing their work, but it was a lot of fun to do that. And I think it was Steph who ended up using the pigs. She ended up literally just ended up tossing a lot of dice in there. So she was filling that up because I think if you fill it up, you end up getting a bonus.
Yeah, there's points as you fill up rows, yes.
Right. So I think that was kind of the route she went. And she did fairly well. I don't think she ended up winning, but that was another strategy she decided to take. So I think, I know for myself, I really made a mistake with, I think, one of the placements I had so that I didn't have dice I could use that were close to it.
Sure.
Because I kept getting the same type of vegetable. But I really liked it. Honestly, it was quick. It was fun. But you had decisions, and I like that. It's still a dice game, but you still have decisions to make.
It's kind of in that sweet spot for a roll and write for sure.
Absolutely, and it's a cute little box, so I liked it.
And that's Harvest Dice.
Perfect. And I feel like there's a trend here with food in every podcast that we do. Harvest, pie. Okay.
Just go with it.
I know. Gotta accept it. So the last game that I played was Meeple Circus. This is actually very funny because I did end up playing this at Essen and played it again. Anyway, there's a story there.
I'm so jealous. I'm really looking forward to trying this.
No, and I got to play with Eric. It was fantastic. No, it was very funny. I think I played with a few people from the Dice Tower, Eric, Anna, and I think Andre, and it was just very fun. Designer is Cedric Millet. Artist is Sabrina Tobal, and the publisher is Metago. The cost is $36 US, and it's about 53 Canadian. So Meeple Circus, if you don't know, is a dexterity game. I kind of went, really? I wasn't expecting that, but it is. So basically, you're trying to create an awesome circus act, and you have resources to do that, like meeples and horses and wood and wheels and all sorts of fun stuff that you can take in order to make your, amazing circus act. So there are a few rounds in this game. It's played in 3 circus acts. You've got your first rehearsal, second rehearsal, and then your great performance. So within that, each circus has phases: preparation, presentation, evaluation, and then your end. So when you are preparing for your circus act, we go around the table and there are different cards that you can take a look at that are, I guess, like the acts that you can perform and you can perform multiple acts on the same kind of in your ring. But by the end of the music, because there's music playing while we're all doing this, you need to make sure nothing's falling. And if it's all stood up, then you're basically going to get points based on the cards you've completed. And in order to get these things, you have I think it's called an act tile, if I'm not mistaken, and this tells you kind of the components that you can take for that specific rehearsal. And so what happens, they have different meeples, they have yellow, red, different colors, and depending on the ones you use, I think it's the red ones where you want them higher up, they have is it the clapometer that measures the height?
Oh my goodness.
And it gives you extra points. It's fantastic.
Is that in the app, or is it in the physical components?
No, there's like an actual physical component. It looks like, when the strongman or somebody hits that with the hammer, and then they have that piece that goes up and hits the bell. It kind of looks like that.
Oh, cool.
It's really, really cute. So they have the different rehearsals. So the first rehearsal, we're all kind of doing it at the same time. There's some music, and it's about 2 minutes, like doot, 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 that kind of music. Mm-hmm. And then we evaluate everyone's act, see what points we get. You do that a second time. The third act is when you have like your individual performance, and you kind of have like a caveat. So there's like a card that you choose where, yes, you are, setting up your act, doing your things, but within that, you have something else that you have to do. This made me laugh so hard. Eric's killed me. So these are individual. So we do them one at a time, and we watch to make sure everyone's completed what they're supposed to do. So Eric had special music for his, and I think it was every time he heard applause in the music, he had to get up and go, thank you very much, and then keep going. But he still only had like 2 minutes or whatever it was to the end of the music to finish getting all his, meeples and everything in order. Andre's made me laugh as well. Every time one of his meeples fell over, he had to say, ow, it hurts, and then pick it up and keep going. Things like that. And obviously the player with the most points at the end of the game wins. I had a lot of fun with this, just for those little things at the end that made me laugh. It was great. Really good time.
Oh, that sounds ridiculous, but it sounds like a lot of fun. And I know, I think Eric was talking about it an episode or so ago, and it sounds like he just really enjoyed it too, and just felt like it was great for groups and just silly fun that just had a little extra to it to make it maybe a little more engaging than a standard dexterity game.
Right, exactly. Because I generally don't gravitate towards those.
Yeah, and it's I hope I can play it on Dice Tower Cruise. I hope somebody has a copy on Dice Tower Cruise, because I'm really looking forward to playing it. I can see where maybe that silliness would turn some people off, but I'm really looking forward to trying that.
No, it was great. We had a really good group. Like I said, it was silly fun. Like if you're looking for, it's dexterity. If you're looking for something serious, well, this is obviously not going to be the game for you. But if you just want something like fun, have a little bit of music, laugh, this is great. Like on the cruise, I think this would be a fantastic game. With kids, I think this would be really, really fun. So for me, I think it's a win. I liked it. Yes, my friends are going, Mandy likes a dexterity game. Oh, and she doesn't take someone's eye out. Wow, that's a first. So that is Meeple Circus. Very happy to say that I liked it a lot.
That's awesome. Well, last up for me, I wanted to talk about a game called Sunny Day. This is a tile laying game from a publisher that I'm quite fond of in Korea, a Korean publisher called Happy Baobab. And the designer here is Manu Palau, and the artist is Agsti Im. And I picked this up at Essen. I think they had a show special, so it was like only €15, but the actual retail may actually be a little bit higher. The tiles are really nice quality. They have like rounded edges, and they're really nice and thick and all this other stuff. Sunny Day, when you look at it, it's just a bunch of tiles primarily. There's a few extra tokens, but the edges of them have half symbols. Mm-hmm. There's like an umbrella, a sun, a popsicle, a shamrock, I don't know, like all these like Sunny Day little accoutrements. And on each of the four edges of the square tile, there's half of these icons. And so if you put two tiles together with a matching icon, you get, a whole shamrock or a whole popsicle or whatever.
Right.
And the way this works is you actually you get a tile in your hand and you play it to a center tableau that's been built out of these tiles. And when you put your tile down, whatever tiles are touching it that match the symbols perfectly,
Okay.
you get to take those tiles into your hand.
Ah, okay.
So it's this interesting, you put a tile down, you get tiles back, and you're trying to maximize on that because then those are the tiles that you put into your personal tableau.
Oh.
And that's what actually scores. And that is what I really like about this game is that put a tile into the center tableau, get tiles to build out your own. It has this extra little layer of planning and thinking options through that I really like because in your personal tableau, when you match, as you're building your tiles out and you create whole symbols, that's obviously what will count for points.
Right.
I really like that mechanism. I haven't necessarily played a tile laying game quite like that with that kind of give and take mechanism that I thought was so cool. Now, I can definitely see where there is a fair amount of randomness in this game that could turn some people off because you get the randomness of the tile that you draw that you're matching into that center tableau.
Right.
And one of the elements that I didn't talk about is if you match a sun or a popsicle, I think, you actually get a bonus token.
Oh.
And that bonus token is just points. It's got like 0, 1, or 2 points on it. And you draw it randomly.
Okay.
So not only do you get the randomness of the tile that you're putting out, but you get that when you score, when you get those tokens, you get the randomness of is it 0 points or 2 points? You don't know.
Right.
And that randomness really impacts you because if you never draw tiles that have a sun or ice cream on it, you have no shot at those tokens at all, which is definitely something that we saw happen. So I feel like that's a caveat. That said, the game is so light and quick, but that give and take has enough game heart to it that I really, really enjoy it. It plays very quickly, but I feel like I'm thinking things through. It's adorable. So certainly if you're looking for a game that appeals to younger players, that might help teach them forward thinking and forward turn planning, I think that this would be a really good candidate for that. And I think Sunny Day was a lovely little game. And I'm really hoping that it gets picked up for wider distribution. Right now, as far as I know, it's only available through that Korean publisher.
Okay, this is one I also picked up. I haven't had a chance to pull it out yet. I mean, it looks really pretty. I love the colors. It has like that turquoise colors with it, with a bit of white and yellow. And when you're placing the tiles, is it easy to see that the shapes fit, or is it one of those like patchwork where you kind of have to hover?
No. That's all very, very easy to see.
Okay. So age-wise, who do you think could?
Oh, 6.
Oh.
6+.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it could totally work.
Yeah, I mean, because you're placing your tile out, it's real easy. It's you can do simple matching. It's getting those tiles back and really being thoughtful about how you're building your personal tableau.
Right.
Can a 6-year-old do it? Yes. Will it be the most strategic thing in the world? Maybe, maybe not. But mechanically, definitely, I think 6 and up could play it. All right, enough with the new games. Let's go talk some older games, shall we?
That's a good idea. So it's now that time of the show where we get back to some of the oldies. So my pick for this week's shelf staple is For Sale. This is one I think a lot of you would know, but if you're new, this is one you should definitely have in your collection. Designer is Stefan Dora, and there's a team of artists actually for Sale. The publisher that I'm going to use is Eagle Gryphon Games, but there are others that were listed. The price is 23 Canadian, 19 US. For Sale is a quick game, and it's literally about buying and selling real estate. No, it is not like Monopoly. It is much shorter than that. There are 2 phases in the game. Players, you first bid for several buildings, and then after all the buildings have been bought, then you want to sell the buildings for as much profit as possible. That is literally the game. Yep. I have to tell you, I love some of the cards in this game. The igloo made me smile a little bit. When you're doing the sales and some of the values of them, like, this is fantastic. But it gets a little competitive because, you don't want to play out your high cards too soon. And then, you're not getting what you need. I don't know. I really like this game. It was one of the first games I actually bought early on. And I think they've since changed the art in this game, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, really?
Recently, I think there's a new version floating around.
Oh, I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, because I walked by and I said, oh, that's different. And then apparently there's like a travel version. I don't know. I had never seen these versions before. So that was new to me. But it's a really, really simple game. I actually played this at lunchtime quite a bit. I've played this with kids, I mean of a certain age.
Sure.
Because it's pretty straightforward, right? You know, you're trying to buy the real estate and then use those, you know, and then sell them off, make money. It literally is that simple. I really like this game. Honest to goodness, if you didn't know about gaming and you saw the box, you might kind of go, okay, sure.
Yep.
You know, you would pass it by. I think it's still really fun. I've had it for a while. I know we were talking and you also have this game. It's great. I really, really, really enjoy it.
Yeah, I basically love that you picked For Sale as a shelf staple. I honestly never would have thought of it as a shelf staple because it's for sale. Duh, right. It's on my shelf because like it's so ingrained as a literal shelf staple in my collection. It completely flew under my radar to highlight and call out. It just seems so ubiquitous to me.
Right.
Because it's just that good. Steph and Dora is known for these wonderful, mechanically simple games that just have depth to them that are super engaging. And For Sale is obviously one of the best. You mentioned the travel edition. I haven't seen the new art edition. I will definitely check that one out. But I do actually own the regular edition from Eagle Gryphon, but I also own the travel edition that you're talking about.
You do? I've never seen it.
It's literally a deck box size, like a simple playing card deck box, a little thicker. Because ultimately all For Sale is really a card game that has some money tokens in there.
Yeah.
And the way the travel size works is that you open it up and they have playing cards that you are punchable, and it has the money tokens out of playing card material. So after you punch it out, like everything fits in that deck box, and it is amazing. This perfect little travel size copy of For Sale. It's awesome, and it's inexpensive. It's super inexpensive. So it's still in print. I've seen it in shops and stuff like that. So if you see it, like For Sale Travel Edition is a steal for sure.
That's okay. I had no idea, actually. And this game, I didn't know it was 1997.
Yeah, right?
Oh, I didn't think it was that. I mean, I just played it the other day. You know what I mean? So to me, I didn't even think about it, but it's one that just continues to pop up in a lot of people's collections. And you just pull it out every once in a while. You're like, oh yeah, For Sale. And I was at PAX, saw a table playing For Sale. Like, it's just everybody needs to have this game. So for me, For Sale is my pick for shelf staple. It literally is as simple as we've explained it, but you still have to do things like managing your money, which I'm horrible at in this game. So I just want to buy everything, and getting those higher cards. Yeah, nobody wants the 2 card, a card worth 2 or 3, because you know you might end up with like a $0 card at the end of the game.
Yeah, it's gosh, now I really want to play For Sale.
I know, right?
Yeah, good job, Mandy.
Yes.
Well, you know, I actually, just by chance, I actually also picked a game that in North America, at least, is published by Eagle Gryphon, and that is Roll Through the Ages, Bronze Age.
Nice.
This is one of the earlier examples of a roll and write game that kind of dared to break the boundaries of Yahtzee. And, you know, the designer of Roll Through the Ages, who, I gotta be honest, I'm a little embarrassed, I didn't realize that the designer is Matt Leacock.
Can I tell you, I didn't know that either. Wow.
Yeah. When I was like, oh my gosh, Matt Leacock designed this.
Wow.
That's amazing.
That's
so
great.
yeah, Roll Through the Ages designed by Matt Leacock. It's got like a team of artists on it, you know, to draw the little monuments and stuff like that. And, you know, I think it retails in the US for $40, but that's because the components in Roll Through the Ages are really swanky. So it is essentially a roll and write game, but each player gets a wooden pegboard, like this little wooden board that's got the resources painted on it, and you use pegs to track your resources. So it's got that extra little zhuzh to the components that I'm sure there's other ways they could have done it, but it's really, really a nice little touch in the game.
Yeah.
And, you know, from a mechanical point of view, it's super straightforward. You are rolling these custom dice and gathering resources that you track on your pegboard. And then eventually you're going to be using your workers and your resources to build up monuments, different monuments that are on your actual score sheet. So you're just filling in little boxes as you build them up. And when you complete them, then they score certain value points. If that was all there was to the game, it wouldn't have much tooth to it, I guess.
Right.
But in what they add to it, what Matt Leacock adds to it, is that there are things like disasters, that like droughts and pestilence and revolts and things like that you have to account for and deal with. And there are abilities that you can gain, and you have to make that choice sometimes between how you use your dice to build up your monuments, to get to the end game and to win, to win that way, or gain these abilities that help protect you, that speed up your resource collection in the future, etc. And those choices are really interesting during the game, and what's right early in the game may not be right later in the game, and that kind of evolution as you go. It plays, I think under 30 minutes. It's pretty quick, which is nice. It is one of those ones where everybody rolls their own dice and kind of scores their own thing. Roll Through the Ages Bronze Age is just, it's 2000, it's like a decade old now. It is a roll and write game that really withstands the test of time. I really enjoy it. I play it solo, and it works out great that way too. So that is my shelf staple.
Definitely one I hear people still talking about to this day and saying how much they really like it. So again, another one to add to my pile of games that I need to play. All right, it's now that time to check out a game, well, the whole family can play. So our pick for this week is Jeju Island, aka Play Jeju, which is what it was named in Korea, which I actually just discovered. Designer is Yeon Min Jung, Gary Kim, and Jun Hyip Kim. The artist, well, is uncredited, which is a shame. So if it's you, say it loud and proud and let us know who you are. Publishers Grail Games on the West here, and it's actually Happy Baobab everywhere else. Is that correct?
Yeah, I didn't know this. It's originally a Korean game, and Happy Baobab, who we just talked about with Sunny Day, is the publisher, which I had no idea until I was looking. Yeah, go figure. It was a coincidence.
I feel this episode is like, we should name it Discoveries. I'm not even lying to you, because I feel there have been a lot of discoveries here. So next time. This costs 27 Canadian, so it's about 30 US. So really fun, cute, simple game, but the players travel around Jeju Island, and you're using these stacks, which are your players, basically to travel the board. There's also a Harubang statue, which gets moved, and it will give you a bonus tile. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. You want to gather these Jeju tiles because they're going to help you kind of finish these little collection cards, or they're like objective cards, but you need the specific tiles which have like different kind of, I don't know if they're animals or something, but there's one that looks like a snake, but it looks like a saw that's like a snake. It's
like an eel or something. Yeah, the art's really quirky for sure.
It's quirky, but it's definitely like super, super cute. But anyway, these tiles, you want to collect them in order to finish these kind of point cards, and these are what are going to help you win the game. So basically at the end of the game, the player with the most points wins. So in the game, you have a couple actions. You can travel. So basically taking these stacks. So your color, you have two of these kind of circular discs that are in stacks. And basically what you want to do is you take a stack and you kind of drop and move it around the board until you have no more in the stack. Every disc that kind of is in front of a pile of these tiles, those players get the top tile. There are some discs that are black, I believe, in the stack. And, well, if your tile's underneath that, or sorry, your token is underneath that, you don't get a tile. So It's a little unfortunate. But players will sometimes move stacks to force you to not take a tile, and then they get all the goodies. And then there's also taking the points cards as an action, which are what you're trying to complete to win the game. I know I missed some things in there. That Harubang statue, I think, gives you bonuses. Am I right on that?
Yeah, if you land where the statue is, yeah. It gives you just an extra bonus tile. Yep.
That's a fantastic word. Harubang.
Yeah.
It has a nice sound
feel to it. Yeah, exactly. The best way to describe Jeju Island is Mancala meets Splendor.
Yes.
Because that disc movement and the components in the game are great, at least in the Grail Games version that I have, that I assume you have.
Yep.
The tiles are nice and sturdy, and those discs, they've got a nice weight to them. I don't know if they're plastic or if they're enameled or what they are, but they've got a little bit of clink to them, and they're really nice.
Absolutely.
And so that movement that you're talking about, Mandy, that's really like a Mancala style movement where you're picking up and dropping them off. And then the cards are just like Splendor cards, where you get a certain number of tokens that you've picked up, and when you have enough, you can exchange them and get those cards. And I think that that's what makes this so appealing, why we called it out as an all access kind of game, is it has a couple of very basic mechanisms, but they come together in a fun way. And it's engaging enough that it keeps you interested, but it's not so difficult or challenging that you feel like it's intimidating or weighty. The art, which you were just saying, the uncredited art, is quirky, but it is adorable. So it's got that cute element to it that may make it feel a little more accessible to some people. Maybe, other people might be turned off by it, but
Sure.
I think that it in general makes it feel a little more accessible. And, just that combination of Mancala with the Splendor Set collection, it plays pretty quickly usually. I mean, it plays definitely in under an hour, if not, like 40 minutes or less, probably.
Yeah. I played it at a lunchtime before, and we played it in about 40 minutes or so.
For sure. And so, I think when you're, if you want to bring something just a little bit different to family game night, Jeju Island is a great choice. It's going to feel fresh. It's going to feel new to a lot of people who don't play a lot of games. And I personally, I always like being the person that exposes new things to gamers or potential gamers. So Jeju Island's definitely one of those.
Yeah, this is the kind of game. It's just so fun and cute and bright and, smart design, and it's simple but fun, and, you can different levels of players can enjoy it. It makes me want to just grab a glass of Tang. I don't know why. That just came. You know what I'm talking about.
No, I mean, okay, Mandy.
It brings me back to childhood where some of those, cartoons and things were a bit odd and strange. And then, I don't know, Tang was like a thing. So I feel like I need a glass of Tang, play this game, brings back memories, family time fun. I know, I totally went off on a tangent there, but it just struck me and I had to share it with all of you.
Before we wrap up the show, let's fit in one more segment. We have had some really positive feedback on our app chat. So let's get going with a couple of board game apps. Sound good, Mandy?
It sounds like a plan. So I think I'll start it off with some Potion Explosion.
Or, as the kids are calling it, the Post-Blow.
I'm sorry, what now?
The post-blow. When you talk about it, don't you abbreviate to post-blow?
I have no idea what you were talking about.
Oh my goodness. All right, moving along. Tell us about Potion Explosion.
Yeah, we're going to have to come back to that. So it's on platform iOS Universal and Android. The game is developed and published by Asmodee Digital, and designer is Stefano Castelli, Andrea Crespi, Lorenzo Silva, published by Horrible Games and Simon Games. So it ranges about $2.99 US, $3.99 Canadian. I actually think that's dropped. I think it was a bit more expensive. So I think that's a really good price right now. In Potion Explosion, you're collecting ingredients and you're using them to make potions. Basically, you want to try to get like marbles together. So you want to try and get all your blue ones together. So if you have a blue one and it knocks another blue and there's another blue, they all kind of pew, and it makes like a, what would you call that? It makes not a reaction, but
an explosion.
Yeah, okay. An explosion. That would be the reason why it's entitled Potion Explosion.
Nailed it.
Oh my goodness. Basically, so you're trying to, and then you have these potions sitting on your little Bunsen burner in the app, which is so cute. And you want to try and meet the requirements of the potion. So the different, I'd say marbles, but the different marbles to meet the requirements of the potion. And then each potion, once you complete it, has a special ability. So some of them allow you to take more of the marbles on a turn. Some are just like a specific color. They have a whole bunch of really fun ones on there. So basically you're trying to collect these skill tokens, and whoever has the most of these skill tokens will win the game. I really, really, really like this app. It has that kind of like Harry Potter feel, but like crazy mad scientist guy in the game. But the application is quite nice. It's colorful. It's vibrant. The sound effects are fun. I think this is one that was it like a video game or something? And then it went to a board game, and now we're back to an app again. I feel there was something happening there.
Yeah, I think that originally the board game was inspired by some of the little app games that are out there. Not like Candy Crush, where you get, you match things up and then they disappear and they, clank down to, and I mean, I don't think Potion Explosion existed as a video game previously, but I do think it was strongly inspired by them. So it is kind of funny that you start with, an app video game that gets converted to an analog experience that then gets converted back to a digital experience. It's quite the journey.
Yes, and you hear that a lot from people when they talk about Potion Explosion. I really like this game. I've had it for a little while, so I know it's not super new. But for those of you who don't have it, I think when it initially launched, it was a bit more expensive. People were a little weary about getting it. It's really fun. Honestly, I've played it so much. I think I've kind of dropped off a bit. I've been really busy, but I've picked it up again. And it's, I don't know, I have a really great time with it. I actually have to play it with the volume on a little bit because I like to hear the little do, 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 the music. I don't know. It just sets the mood for me. So I really like it. I know, I'm pretty sure you've played it quite a bit, I think, as well.
Oh, I play it daily.
Yeah.
So Potion Explosion is actually one of those apps that for whatever reason has just taken root for me and my friends.
Yes.
And I almost always have a game going on. And it has this great asynchronous online play. And you can play against anybody who has the app. It doesn't matter what kind of device they have, which I love, that cross-platform play. So yeah, I always have a little game going, and you come back and you get a little alert and you see what your opponents took and you tap your marbles and voila, it's really light and easy, and everything you said about its production quality is spot on. It just makes it, super enjoyable.
I do wish there was some inner chat that you could do in the app, but this is something I've been saying from day one, and I know there were a few bugs with the app, but I think they've since fixed them, so...
Yeah, it runs pretty smoothly now. I think that might be a discussion for a different day. In-app chat is hugely problematic and pretty risky, I think, for people to implement. And that's why you see things like Hearthstone and whatnot. They implement very limited chat and that kind of thing for a reason. But anyway.
It's like a nice to have. So perhaps we will revisit this and someone will maybe make that happen.
Maybe.
So my pick for Tap That App is Potion Explosion.
I wanted to bring us to Agricola, but Agricola, all creatures big and small. This is the little two-player younger sibling, I guess, to the big board game Agricola.
Right.
It's obviously designed by Uwe Rosenberg, and it's part of the Mayfair Lookout kind of two-player series of games that I just love, that series in general. And over here in the US, I think it's published by Z-Man. Mm-hmm. But this is available on iOS, Android, and Steam. On the phone, it's like $4.99. And the developer is DigiDiced. And I gotta say, DigiDiced is a development group that I am keeping my eye on. They have really hit it out of the park with these Uva conversions, because they've also done Le Havre and L'Import and Patchwork, but they've also done Terra Mystica, which, hello, they went big and they did a phenomenal job. So this is a very, very talented group of people, very smart group of people making these apps. So in Agricola, all creatures big and small, like I said, it's a two-player worker placement game that really focuses on the animal keeping element of Agricola. You're limited to just 3 workers, so the turns are very, very quick, and you put your workers out to do, to gather resources or take little actions, gather animals and what have you. But the game is really about building out your farm animal enclosures. So you also have a player board where you have, that empty field grid, and you're building fences, and different size enclosures depending on how you build your fences will hold a different number of animals. There are breeding moments so that your animals can multiply, and ultimately at the end of the game you're going to be scoring points for kind of the volume and diversity of your herd. You want, cows, pigs, sheep, blah blah blah. One of the other things I really wanted to highlight in this one is the app. It's an IAP, which stands for in-app purchase.
Oh, yes.
As a little add-on, just an inexpensive little add-on, you can also add on the More Buildings expansion, which is super cool because it's really hard to get in real life.
Oh.
So here's an opportunity. If you really want to play the game with that expansion, you can do it digitally with no problem. So with all of DigiDice's apps, they are all full featured. So Agricola, all creatures big and small, it has asynchronous online play. It has multiple AIs. It has a beautiful production quality. I will say I prefer it on a tablet. It's one of those where if you know the game really, really well, the worker placement spots, no problem. But if you're a little hard of sight or, getting older like me, it gets pretty small on a phone. It's definitely playable. But if you have a tablet, it plays much more easily, I think, on a tablet, just to see all those icons a little bit larger. But, it is a great port of a lovely 2-player worker placement game. If you like Agricola, All Creatures Big and Small, I think you'll love the app. If it's a game you've wanted to explore, I think the app does a great job of carrying the game over into the digital sphere. So this would be a great way to kind of familiarize yourself with the game to see if you want to invest in it in real life. And I just really like it. So there you go. Agricola, All Creatures Big and Small.
I'm always curious to see how tutorials are in games. I feel like this one, I haven't played this one yet, but I've heard it's pretty decent in this one.
Yeah, the tutorial is great. It definitely will teach you the rules of the game, but also the kind of interface. There are definitely trade-offs made to fit all of that player information, all those boards and stuff into a small screen.
Right.
And I think they did a really good job of that. So the tutorial is great.
Okay, which is good. And for me, I actually play a lot of my apps on my phone just because it's portable on there. It's quick. So like Potion Explosion works great. There's this one I know you were saying better on the iPad, but it's doable on like a...
Totally. I do play it on my phone, but if you are definitely, if you struggle a little bit with your sight and things like that, it's just a heads up. But I play it on my phone, so I don't have that big of a problem with it.
Oh, perfect. Another one to add to my list of apps because I have some really big ones coming next time we do this. I know you do too, so this is one I can add to the list for me to check out.
Well, you've got some playing time coming up, so you can definitely fit some app gaming in, I would expect.
Yes, there's one I'm excited for, actually. I don't want to give it away. Next time.
Okay. Well, there you have it, folks. I think we will wrap up the show from here. If you are on Dice Tower Cruise, really looking forward to meeting you and playing games with you there. Next episode 533, Tom and Eric will be back with, actually, I don't know, because somebody... Tom.
Yep, it's all
did not fill in the show notes, so it'll be a surprise to both you and to us. Yes. But I know it'll be great no matter what. Until our next episode, thank you so much for joining us, and we will join you again soon.
Thanks, everyone. See you next time. Thanks for listening. Promotional consideration has been provided by game publishers in the form of review copies of games. This podcast is sponsored by listeners like you. Thank you for your continued support. And speaking of support, the Jack Vazel Memorial Fund is an organization dedicated to helping gamers in need. Learn more about the fund's mission and how you can help at jackvazel.org. The Dice Tower is produced by Tom, Suzanne, Mandy, and Eric, with assistance from Itai Perez, Derek Porter, and Rob Searing. Our theme is composed by Timothy Pinkham and arranged by Matt Bellier. And hosting is provided by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games at great prices at coolstuffinc.com. Let us know what you think of the show by posting to the Dice Tower Guild at BoardGameGeek.com. Following the Dice Tower on Twitter, or by emailing us at dicetower@gmail.com. And don't forget to visit the other shows in the Dice Tower Network at dicetowernetwork.com. Until next time, from all the gang at the Dice Tower, have fun gaming. Now it's that time for Two Truths and a Lie. So... mine from last week, or last podcast, was I was a part of The Lion King on Broadway. I work in mental health and wellness. My legs have crashed through several sheets of glass.
Oh my goodness.
I know, quite the life I lead. If you guessed I was part of The Lion King on Broadway as the lie, you would be correct. Hard to believe, I know, that I wasn't in The Lion King, but no. And yes, the sheets of glass... I was young, tobogganing, and said, "Oh, let's go sledding." And there was glass on the side of the house. Didn't see it. My legs went through all 3 panes of glass. I have a huge scar on my leg to prove it. So there you go.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty rough. And I was young, so.
And see, I totally would believe that you were part of the Lion King on Broadway.
I think I have the personality for that. What about you? What's your reveal from last week?
All right. Last week I said... I'm afraid of needles, I'm afraid of zombies, and I'm afraid of clowns.
Ugh, clowns. Ugh.
And the lie was, I'm afraid of needles. I'm not. I used to not like them, but I decided to try to get over it. So I started donating blood to help me get over my fear of needles. And now I don't even blink at them.
Okay, you just talking about that right now is actually making me sick.
Yeah, you're pulling some faces there. You look like, are you gonna be okay? Yeah.
No, I don't know. Okay.
But
Yuck.
I am ridiculously, I'm actually afraid of zombies. And I know that that's completely irrational, friends and family out there. I know that that is unreasonable. You can't help what you're afraid of sometimes. And that is just, I was fine with the George Romero style shambling zombies, like Risen Dead. Like that was just haha to me. But then that movie 28 Days Later came out.
Oh, yeah, that's creepy.
And it introduced like fast zombies into the world. And I was done. Nope, I'm done. I'm out. Yeah. So
yeah,
there you go.
That's me with clowns. No, thank you.
All right, Mandy, tell me 2 new truths and a new lie.
All right. Mandy is not my real name. I know. I've spent time with a tiger in an enclosure. And I own 700 board games.
Ooh. All right.
What about you?
I lost my inheritance in the stock market during the tech bomb. I own over 60,000 magic cards. And I am allergic to bee stings.
There you go. Good luck.